You know those stories that just feel like, I don't know, they've been told and retold forever, but they still, like, draw you in.
Yeah, like there's always something new to discover.
Exactly. And today we're diving into one of those, Genesis 14.
Ah, a classic. Kings, battles, a mysterious priest king.
Right. It's not just some ancient war story, though.
No, not at all. It really makes you think about power, faith, what it means to be truly great, timeless stuff.
Okay, so imagine this. Genesis 14 drops us right into, like, an epic war movie, you know?
Total power struggle. You've got Amraphel, Arioch, Tidal.
Chedorlaomer.
Oh,
Forget
of
Chedorlaomer.
course. Chedorlaomer, the big boss. All these kings, right? All vying for control.
Oh, so many names to keep track of.
It's a mouthful, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But don't worry about memorizing every single one.
Okay, good, because I'm already lost.
What's important is the history here. This wasn't just a one-off battle. We're talking years of tension.
Like bad blood.
The worst. The kings of Sodom and Gomorrah, for instance.
Oh, those guys.
They actually served Chedorlaomer for 12 years before rebelling.
12 years? That's a long time to be simmering.
Exactly. So when they finally break away...
Chedorlaomer's not happy.
Not.
Yeah.
At all. He unleashes everything. And this is where it gets personal for Abram.
Abram.
Our guy.
Remember Lot?
Abram's nephew.
Living in Sodom, right in the middle of this whole mess.
Nah.
Chedorlaomer takes Lot captive, along with everything else of value in Sodom, by the way.
Wow. So what does Abram do? I bet he didn't just sit around.
Not Abram. He gathers his men.
All 318 of them.
Right. A small army, but mighty. And get this, they launch a surprise attack at night.
Wow. Bold move.
Against Chedorlaomer's forces. They win.
No way.
And Abram doesn't just stop there. He chases them.
All the way to Damascus?
Well, near there, a place called Hobah. And he gets everything back. Lot, the goods, everything.
Oh, what a victory.
It really shows you Abram's character, doesn't it? The strategist, the leader.
The guy who's fiercely loyal to his family. Exactly. So picture this. The battle's over. The king of Sodom, he comes to thank Abram.
Makes sense.
And suddenly, this new character appears kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Melchizedek.
Melchizedek, okay.
He's described as the king of Salem. But that's not all. He's also a priest of God Most High.
A priest king. That's interesting.
God Most High. That's a pretty big deal, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. It sounds important, but I'll be honest, I'm a little lost on what it all means.
It is a curious title, and we're going to unpack it, I promise. But first, let's see how Abram reacts to this Melchizedek. Well, he does something that kind of blows my mind, really.
What's that? Gives him a medal. High fives.
Abram gives Melchizedek 1/10 of everything he just won back.
Yeah.
Everything.
Wow, 1/10? Like a tithe? I mean, I know that's like a religious thing people do, but he just went through this whole crazy battle. You'd think he'd like want to keep the spoils of war for himself, right?
You'd think. But that's what makes this so interesting. It shows a real awareness on Abram's part, a recognition of a different kind of authority. He's not just a warlord conquering and claiming. There's something deeper going on.
I see what you mean, like he's operating on a different level.
And remember, this is Abram. This is the guy who becomes Abraham, the father of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
Right. Big deal.
So you start to see how this encounter, this tithe to Melchizedek, it's like a seed being planted.
A seed for what?
For the whole idea of faith, of recognizing something larger than yourself, something worthy of sacrifice. It's a recurring theme throughout the Bible.
Okay, that makes sense. But there's something that's been bugging me.
What's that?
Melchizedek. He just like pops up in this story and then poof, he's gone.
He's a bit of a mystery man, isn't he?
Yeah, like who is this guy? Where'd he come from? Where'd he go? Genesis doesn't exactly give us a bio.
Right. He enters the scene, makes a huge impression, and then he's gone. And that has had people scratching their heads for centuries, trying to figure out who he really was.
So who do they think he was?
Well, there are a lot of theories, and we're going to get into those in a minute. But just imagine, right? This one brief appearance sparks all these interpretations, these debates that span thousands of years. I mean, how cool is that?
Pretty cool, I guess. So spill it. What are the theories? Who is this Melchizedek?
Well, some early Jewish scholars, they connected him to Noah. Remember Noah?
The Ark guy. Yeah, of course.
They believed Melchizedek was actually Shem, Noah's son.
Whoa. Now that's a family tree, so he's like biblical royalty.
Exactly. It's a way to link this mysterious figure to a really important lineage.
Okay, so that's one theory. What else?
Then you have early Christians looking at the same story a few centuries later, and they see something completely different.
Like what?
They see Melchizedek as a kind of foreshadowing of Jesus. Remember how he was both king and priest?
Yeah, the priest of God Most High thing, right?
Right, right. Early Christians saw that as a parallel to Jesus, who they believe is both king and high priest. And there are even parts of the New Testament, like the book of Hebrews, where they specifically draw these connections between Melchizedek and Jesus.
So we've got Jewish scholars connecting to Noah, Christians connecting him to Jesus. It's like this one character, this one encounter has all these layers of meaning.
It's amazing, isn't it? This little snippet in Genesis has had this huge ripple effect on how people understand their faith, both then and now. It just goes to show you the power of these stories, these encounters. They stick with us. They make us think. They challenge us.
They sure do. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like if this one little part of the story is so complex,
Right.
what else are we missing?
Exactly. And you know what else blows my mind about all this?
What's that?
We haven't even talked about the fact that this is all happening in the shadow of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh man, those cities. Talk about a dark side.
Right. Even this early in Genesis, you can tell something's not right with those places. And it's no coincidence that this whole encounter with Melchizedek happens with that as the backdrop.
So you've got these kings battling it out, this mysterious priest king appearing out of nowhere. And in the background, you have Sodom and Gomorrah, almost like a warning sign.
Exactly. And remember how Abram refused to take anything from the king of Sodom?
Yeah, he wanted nothing to do with that guy's stuff.
Right. And I think that says a lot about Abram's character. He's not interested in profiting from a place like that. He's got a different moral compass.
He's playing a different game.
Exactly. And that contrast between Abram and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah, it's really at the heart of this whole story.
Yeah, it's like they represent two totally different paths, and Abram is choosing the one less traveled.
And it's not an easy path either. It takes guts to walk away from power and riches, especially when they're right there for the taking.
For sure. But that's what makes Abram such a compelling figure, right? He's not perfect, but he's trying to do what's right, even when it's hard. He's wrestling with these huge questions, just like we are.
Totally. And isn't that what's so cool about these old stories? I mean, they're ancient, right? But they still speak to us today.
It's like they tap into something timeless, something about human nature that hasn't really changed all that much.
Exactly. And this whole thing with Melchizedek, it kind of throws gasoline on that fire, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, think about it. You've got Abram, this warrior, this leader, but then he meets Melchizedek, and you realize there's a whole other level of leadership, a different kind of power at play.
Right, that priest-king thing. It's like he embodies something totally different from those other kings.
Totally. It's not about conquering or controlling. It's about something deeper, something more spiritual, something connected to, like a higher purpose.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what would it look like to lead like that today? I mean, in a world that's still obsessed with power and wealth and all that.
Such a good question. And it's one that Genesis 14 throws right in our faces. It's like, hey, are you going to be like the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah, chasing after stuff that ultimately doesn't matter? Or are you going to be like Abram, striving for something more, something lasting?
Man, that's a powerful message. And it's not just some abstract idea either.
Right.
Look what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right. It's a stark reminder that our choices have consequences.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Genesis 14, any final thoughts? What should we be taking away from this whole whirlwind of kings and battles and priest kings?
For me, it all boils down to this. Even in the middle of chaos, even when we're surrounded by darkness, we always have a choice.
A choice to do what's right, to lead with integrity, to leave the world a little bit better than we found it.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, those choices will echo through generations to come.
Wow. That's quite a thought to end on. And that's our deep dive into Genesis 14. Join us next time when we'll figure out what we're diving into next time. Until then, keep exploring.